This episode's going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about how to create and sell audio products online. And you might just find out the difference between Ben Settle and Bob Bly and how they're at war with email marketing.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Louise Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business. Maybe you can relate to this. When I was a full-time coach, keep repeating the same things to people over and over and over again, and it got to be kind of draining, and I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing anymore. So what I decided to do was record the things that I had to tell clients over and over and over again, and then I packaged those recordings together and sold them as an online course. If you're interested in creating and selling your own online course, head over to thrivinglaunch.com, and I have a free training for you on how to create and make passive income through your own online course.
Today, you're going to be meeting copywriting extraordinaire Bob Bly. He's published over 89 books, all under publishing companies. He's written for over 100 different clients. He's given seminars over in the U.S. Army. He's been on national TV multiple times. The guy is truly a legend. His brain is just packed full of so much knowledge around copywriting, and we're so excited to have him here and give us some lessons around how to create a product. All right, we're here with Bob Bly. So great to have you on the show. Are you ready to launch, Bob?
I'm very happy to be here, and I am ready.
So it's really awesome to have you here. I've read some of your copywriting books. There was one that's like the handbook for copywriters. I've been following your stuff on Facebook. And what's really interesting is we've had Ben Settle on the show. He's one of my friends, love his stuff. And as I've been following you, I noticed that you two have this difference in how you should email. And it was really cool because this kind of spurred this whole conversation that went from Facebook to Warrior Forum. Tell me a little bit about where you differ with how people should email.
I work with a lot of the, for want of a better word, larger, more mainstream internet marketers like Health Sciences Institute, Newsmax, Agora Publishing, and Dr. Sears. And what these guys find is that if all your messages are sales messages, people will be turned off. They'll unsubscribe, and your sales rates will actually go down. If you make a percentage of the messages pure content, useful information, they'll appreciate it more, they'll become more loyal, they'll become bigger fans, and they'll buy more. It has always been a dichotomy and a difficult choice, but based on a lot of personal experience and observation with me and my clients, I think slightly over half, 50% or a little more of your emails should be pure content, and the other half, 50% or a little less, should be pure sales messages. That's
Booyah, Ben. I hope you're listening because you just got beat in the email game. Ben Settle.
No, nobody beats Ben in the email game. What I would say is maybe he misrepresents because he says every message should sell. And yes, he does sell at the end of a lot of messages, but reading them, there's a lesson, there's content, there's a story. They're really not pure sales messages. So I think whether he admits it or not, he sort of follows this rule.
Well, I think it's fantastic that there are so many different ways to do things, and it's just about finding what works for your specific audience. Thanks for sharing on that, Bob. And I'd love to get into the real meat of the interview, which is about
audio products.
Audio products. So what do you do when you decide to put out an audio product? What's the first step?
Well, first you decide, should the product be audio Should it be video? Because, there's 4 learning modes, as you guys know. There's audio, listening. There's video, watching. There's reading. And then there's experiential, doing the thing. So different subjects demand different media. Like if you're doing golf, you pretty much have to be video. People have to see the swing. If you're doing, like there's a guy out there, Bill DeWeese, who teaches voiceovers, it's got to be audio. You got to hear him do it. For other topics, it's really your choice. And the reason I mix it up is twofold. First, you do have some customers for whom the audio mode of learning is their preferred mode. They don't want to read a book. They don't want to watch a video.
What? People don't want to read books?
Yeah, can you imagine that? It actually is upsetting to me as a book addict.
You know what we should try doing, Bob, is splintering a book and sending it on Facebook posts and just do short versions of the book, like parts of it on Facebook. Maybe people would read it that way.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
If it's one paragraph of your book at a time. And I think what do you have, like 85 books or something, Bob? That would take a long time.
I have with major publishers, I have 89 books published.
Wow.
Paper-bound books. So anyway, one reason I do audio is because some of my customers want that. It never fails. I'll send out an email advertising a new ebook, and I'll get people saying, don't you have this in audio? And then I'll send out an email advertising an audio product, and the person will say, I don't want to listen to it. Do you have it in a book? So you can't please everybody all the time, which is why you mix up and make things in different media. And a guy you guys are too young to remember, Howard Shenson, who was very big in information and consulting in the 70s and 80s, made the statement, people will pay over and over again for this, essentially the same content in different formats. So it pays to have your content in multiple formats. And that's why I like audio. And the other reason, not me, but the other reason I recommend audios to other people, a lot of people who approach me and say they want to get into information marketing can't or don't want to write. They find it an unwholesome mental chore to be avoided at any cost. And I say you can put together an information product without writing a word. And of course, it's an audio, much quicker and easier to do. And ironically, the finished product, the audio, has a higher perceived value than the book.
So when you're putting out content, now, are you talking about selling them on Amazon? Are you selling audio products in membership sites? Where's your preferred place to sell your information?
I do have products on Amazon. I do have a membership site, but my really preferred method of selling is to generate hot traffic, send emails from my lists and my affiliates lists to my landing pages. But some people call the Agora publishing model, which is what they do. The Motley Fool does the same thing. Build a responsive house list, make deals with affiliates who also have responsive house lists reaching the same audience, and market your products by sending emails driving the traffic to your product landing pages.
Fantastic. So how do you go about creating these products? Now, one thing this is something that I teach also, so I'd love to hear your perspective, because a big thing about it is really deciding what you're trying to solve and for your audience through whatever it is that you're creating. What's the problem you're trying to solve, and really aiming to support people through that process. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your process when creating an audio product.
Well, first I define the topic or problem. Sometimes it is a problem. Sometimes it is a skill set they want to master, but one of those two things usually. And so I open up a Word file, and at the top of the Word file, in all caps, I write the problem, try to make it sound a little bit like a title, but don't really worry about too much if it's a finished title yet. And then I make an outline listing all the key points that I think someone, not writing out the text of it, but just listing all the key points someone would want to know. So if I was doing one on, let's say, book publishing, one of my key points would be how to write a book proposal. Another one would be where and how to find a literary agent, things like that. So I make an outline. And then once you have that outline, you have several options for recording and producing the audio, and I could get into what those are if you wish. But I always start with an outline, either just bullet points or a list of questions.
You know, a method that I've really loved, and all you guys listening, you're welcome to use this method, is I've been using Facebook as a way to outline and to figure out what should go inside of a product. So the first digital product I ever made was on podcasting. And so I created a Facebook group completely free on podcast for podcasters about podcasting, everything related to podcasting inside this group. And the podcasting aficionados, you know, the fans, the people that really do it, joined this group, started asking questions, and I started taking note of the questions that came up repeatedly. And then sometimes I would create polls, or I would go in there and I would ask a question to see what kind of feedback I would get. Or if I didn't know an answer, but I saw this question being asked a lot, I'd go and ask it, find out what the answer was from other experts. And then later, once I had all the content and knew what everybody wanted, because I'd been checking out this market for a while inside of Facebook, then I had a program to put together, and my outline was pretty much pre-made for me by the people who needed the product itself. So it was very easy to sell it back to them and say, hey, this is what you guys have been asking for. Here it is.
That's a smart method. There's another one where you put up your own little survey page, not using SurveyMonkey, just a little landing page where you list topics and say, how interested would you be? Let's say the topic was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So the question would be, 1, do you want to know what gear you need? 2, what's the best way to get to the mountain? 3, what kind of guide should you hire? And you ask them to say, is this important? Is it not important? And you drive traffic there. And your reward is, if you fill in the form and submit it, we'll give you the book itself or the program when it's done. So that's another way to do it. But I like what you suggested even better.
Well, surveys are so powerful, and I just want to reiterate that. Never underestimate the power of a survey and understanding your market, because you could put out audio products all day long, but if people don't want it, and they're not interested in it, they're not hot to buy it, then what's the point? So I think it's just absolutely important and necessary to first survey your audience, find out what they want, or track your audience, like you're saying, Luis. Another thing, when I've created my first info product, I was a coach, and I'd find the questions that I kept repeating to clients, the same answers over and over again that I kept repeating to clients. And I said, well, I'm just going to record this. And then it was so much easier that I could just make passive income rather than having to be a one-on-one coach.
You know, one of the things, though, that I see with a lot of people and where I think a survey is really powerful is that I'm passionate about a subject. I'm very passionate about podcasting. I'm known as the podcast guy to a lot of people. I'm known as the Facebook organic and building a business through Facebook organic. But whenever I tackle these subjects, I'm kind of like, I'm a technician and I spend a lot of time with it, and it's not what most people will do. And so the product that needed to be created that I would have originally created would have been like how to do these things. And they're very specific, and people wouldn't really want to pay a lot of money for it, or only a few people would end up buying it. And so by surveying the audience, I was able to find out more the global stuff. I mean, that's really what you're getting at there, right, Bob?
Yeah, but another way I do it, I publish, and I have a medium to a medium small list. I have 65,000 subscribers. And so when I publish my e-newsletters, I get a lot of white mail. I get a lot of people talking to me, and I find out from what they say what they want to know. People ask me questions, also on the phone, but mainly by email all the time. And those questions tell me what they want to know.
Fantastic. Well, it's always important. Okay, we have a audio product. Now, how do we sell it? How do we put it out there? And there's so many different ways to do it. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your methods of selling your audio products.
Well, first, if you don't mind, I don't think we quite got finished on how to create it, because the outline and the questions, that's the raw material. but how do you actually create the MP3 file, the recording? And there's a couple of options for doing it. One of the best is to be invited to some venue, to an internet marketing conference, a trade association meeting, to speak on your topic, where it's a big enough event that they are recording it. And you make a deal with them. Normally they have you sign something that says they make all the money from it and they keep the recording. And I say to them, you can do all that, but I also get a copy of the MP3 and I also co-own the rights. So a lot of my information products are audios and videos of talks I've delivered live in front of groups. And the advantage of that, it has the energy of the live audience feedback. So that's one method. My favorite method is to work with a partner who can either be just the interviewer or a fellow subject matter expert, and essentially to have an interview or a conversation which is much more dynamic than you just sitting in a studio by yourself and reading the bullet points or the questions and then answering them. So those are two of my favorite ways to sell that.
Sounds like podcasting to me in its early days.
Yeah, I'm not experienced in podcasting, although my younger son is a podcasting addict. So those are a couple of the ways that we create them. The terms of selling them, again, different people will use different mechanisms, but I will either take an audio and sell it as a standalone product, or I'll bundle it with other stuff I have. And when you do something that's bundled in multimedia, you can charge a higher price because it has a higher perceived value. So those are the two ways I package audio. I still offer them both as a downloadable MP3, but also for those who want it as audio CDs, which a lot of people do not do anymore.
The new thing is flash drive. You'll drop ship them a flash drive. Do you ever do that?
No, we either let them download the MP3s or, we send them a CD album. My demographic is older and a lot of them like to put a CD in the CD player of the car and listen that way. Younger people will tend to want to listen on one of their devices, like a laptop or a pad, or they'll download it to their iPod.
Yeah, it's really important to know your demographic and how you deliver it. And that's another reason to do a survey. That's one thing that I ask when I put out a new product. I always ask, how do you want your information delivered to you? And I'm surprised sometimes. Some audiences, they just want video. Some audience, they want the flash drive. Some want the audio. And then it's a blend. So I think it's important to appeal to your audience and mix it up too. Really great stuff. So I want to throw in there, this can be really easy. The first time I put out a product, I had a headset and I had whatever recording software came with my computer. I have a Mac, so it was GarageBand. Just open it up and started recording. So it can be as easy as you want it to be, or you can make it complex, or you just have your friend, like Bob's talking about, have your friend in your room with you and someone who's also an expert, and you guys can banter about it and get stuff out that way. So Bob, anything else about creating the product before we get into selling it?
What I do when I'm doing it with, like you mentioned, a friend who's really a peer colleague who's also knowledgeable in the topic, we tend to sit at a table with a nice high quality digital recorder, and each of us has a nice high quality digital microphone, and we have a conversation about it. And one thing that shocks people, we don't edit it. It is pure, raw, right off the first draft stuff, and it has a spontaneity that a lot of editing, I think, would take away from it. And also we can do it in a much faster time. I mean, just to give you an idea of the numbers, one of the early programs I did with my partner, Fred Gleek, I think we recorded it for 4, maybe 5 hours. That was our complete labor in it, no editing. And we gave it to at the time there were no MP3s, we gave it to our fulfillment house to do CDs. and we've sold well over $120,000 worth of that product. So on an hourly rate, that's pretty good.
You know, that's awesome. And I can't believe you just told us that you don't edit your stuff. I mean, Bob, shouldn't everything be edited these days? We want to look perfect in front of everybody.
It's funny, when I worked in the corporate world in the late 70s, we were taught if you're going to do a marketing video, it has to be as close to broadcast quality as possible. But today, that's not true. People do videos on their smartphones with their webcams, and the audience has almost come to like things that are a little more raw and a little more natural and a little less polished. Very strange to me, but that's the way it is. It totally reminds,
wanted to agree with you on that, because it totally reminds me of, we launched a program and this big kind of global thing that was happening with podcasting. And in it, I was wearing a blazer, a button-up shirt. The way it was received was not as great as I wanted it to be. And the team that was producing this and helping us put this thing on came back and said, Luis, I think you should wear either just a button-up shirt or even more like just kind of like a Henley. So it's just a shirt with like 3 buttons and long sleeve type shirt. And I did that, and the reception was phenomenal. And what they really stress is just like, bring them into your living room, don't bring them into your office.
Yeah, it's weird. When, again, late 70s, when I started public speaking, the rule was you had to dress up one level above the audience. So if they were in business casual, you had to wear a suit and tie. Now, I remember the first time I gave a talk recently without a suit and tie, I was in shock. I said, how could I be doing this? But that's how all the speakers dressed. You know, the formal is gone. The only medium where I think a higher professional level of production is demanded is, ironically, books. People are not tolerant of sloppily designed books and typos.
Yeah, that's true. I get angry anytime I see a letter that shouldn't be there. Just kidding. But it's true. It's true, though. If I'm reading a book, or I'm reading, like I'm actually sitting down and reading the book, I'm like, wait, why did this person like misspell that word? Do they not know that there should be spelled that way? I'm going to write them. I don't know if I trust this guy anymore.
That is the problem. It's in writing, the standard is higher. And, I had someone call me up and complain in one of my books, on page...
They called you, huh?
Yeah, they said on page 333, you misspelled whatever. I said, not for nothing, but that book is 100,000 words long. So you know what error rate that is to have one misspelled word out of 100,000? And I did the math for him. But yet, when people see a typo, they have a very negative reaction. If you know this, even though none of us wants a regular job on this call, if you're looking for a job and you have one typo on your LinkedIn profile or your resume, that's it.
Done. So now if I go back to this book, Bob, have you corrected your errors?
No, because it was not an ebook. It was a paperback book published by my regular publisher, and there was 5,000 copies in the warehouse.
Oh, man.
So I wrote them a letter and said, on the next printing, could you fix this? Whether they actually will remember to do that is another story.
Yeah. Well, before we wind up, any pro-level tips you want to give to sell your audio products?
Any last tidbits here that people should know?
I have found that with video and audio, if you can find one, if you have one, putting a really good 2-minute excerpt as an autoplay video on the landing page really helps. Give them a little sample. And we do that with a lot of our audios and videos.
Awesome. Well, it's been so great to have you on the show. And I want to let you guys know that Bob's got some really incredible resources for you, and we have some incredible resources for you. If you head
Bob's
over to...
prolific. He's been around for a long time. He's touted by some of the best copywriters on the planet as one of the guys that, we should all be studying. And that's why we brought Bob on today's show. So if you want to learn more,
just go over to thrivinglaunch.com. We're going to make sure to link you up with Bob, link you up with how to get your audio products and even video products sold online and get those created for you. So head on over there and check out Bob and everything he's up to.
It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time, Bob.
Thanks. I really enjoyed it.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.
And be sure to listen to tomorrow's episode where we're going to talk with Jack Canfield, highly successful author, New York Times bestseller, multiple-time Oprah guest, and creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. We're going to talk with Jack about the secrets of success and how you can use his secrets to increase success in your life.